HR leaders, what's on your mind these days? Is it AI? Is it the economy? The talent market? Remote work? Retention? DEI? Pay transparency? New laws? Our 2024 Workplace Trends Report outlines how HR leaders are thinking about these challenges and what they believe will help their organizations overcome them. Want to find out what they said? Head on over to peoplemanagingpeople.com/workplace trends 2024 and download the report to find out.
Imagine building a company based on two main values, trust and lead with empathy. Today's conversation with Victor Tam, founder of Monos, we dive into how these values have really guided him throughout his entrepreneurial journey. It's a fascinating story where he started as a young age as an entrepreneur, built a number of companies, and in his current venture is really disrupting the online luggage market. Stay tuned for fascinating insights on how his co-founders and himself have structured their team, how they use their values to really guide their decisions. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Reitzma, the resident host of People Managing People. Welcome to the podcast. We're people managing people and we want to lead and manage better. We're owners, founders, entrepreneurs, we're middle managers, we're team leaders. We're managing people, and yes, we do human resources, but we're not HR, at least not in the traditional sense. We're on a mission to help people lead and manage their teams and organizations more effectively. So if you want to lead and manage better, if you want to become a better organizational leader and more effective people manager, then join us. Keep listening to the podcast to find the tips, tricks, and tools you need to recruit, retain, manage, and lead your people and organization more effectively. And while listening to the show, please subscribe and join our mailing list on peoplemanagingpeople.com to stay up to date with all that's going on. Hey, Victor, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, I'm glad to be here and hoping, some really interesting discussions ahead.
Yeah, I think, we've known each other, a little bit through a mutual acquaintance or a mutual friend for just over a year. And when I first heard your entrepreneurial journey, your story really piqued my interest. And I'd love for you to share with our guests a little bit about your background, what you're up to and what you're up to now.
Yeah, so I come from a background of, purely digital. I think goes kind of all the way back to grade 8 or 9 when I first got my computer. Just like any kid, when you get a computer, you're most likely, looking for games, and you spend countless hours just gaming on the PC. But what I did notice was when I did get signed up to internet for the first time, I think around grade 10, that was what changed everything for me. I noticed, from then on, everything that I wanted to learn and find out was available online. And just with a natural, curious mind, I learned a lot during that first few months, being able to search the internet. From there, I just like anyone else, I looked, for games and applications to download online, and just really got an interest into just web pages in general. And one thing led to another, led to me just learning how to build my own website, learning how to, at that time it was a hobby of building a site where people can download, games and applications. So it was kind of my own site, and it was just really fulfilling, just having visitors go in and be able to track it. And one thing led to another. I was able to monetize that first website. And from there, I noticed, I didn't have a desire I noticed my grades started to dip, in school. But at the same time, what I was learning and earning during the days in high school was getting to a significant amount. So I actually decided to not proceed to post-secondary from there, as I was running already multiple businesses online. And 10 years of having a few companies and several exits from them. So the previous companies that I ran were very small in scale, right? These were companies where I could work from home by myself. I might have one or two partners during that time, and it was easy in the sense of there's no one really to answer to. There's no one that you're managing, and they were all fairly successful. It wasn't until 2010 we came up with a new concept of coming up with a direct-to-consumer furniture store where we design, manufacture, and import everything in. Have our own website, our own marketing and logistics. And from there, same thing. It was kind of the same business model where it was just the three. At that time, I had two other partners. It was just the three of us. And yeah, that was the point where we grew to size. 3 years in, there was a very important moment in there where we could have just left the company as is, and it was doing very well. We would each take dividends every month. It was very a business that would do well for the three of us. Or we on the flip side, we saw a tremendous potential if we reinvested everything back in and actually scaled the company, because during that time, direct to consumer models were still quite new. There was not a lot of there weren't a lot of competitors, and we thought. I think this was the first time we actually gave it a shot and tried to go for that home run play. And from there, after 8 years, fast forward 8 years, Rove has grown to a company of over 80 people across 3 countries, and doing a fair size revenue, mid 8 figures by the time I exited in 2018. And that's kind of led to today, where I'm now a founder of a new company, a direct-to-consumer model for travel and lifestyle goods called Monos. And yeah, that's where I am today.
Yeah, it's a fascinating journey. I think one thing I've appreciated about you is just your mind for looking at potential opportunities to disrupt the market. So with Rove Concepts, the direct-to-consumer model of furniture, I know we've got a couple chairs in our living room that we bought from Rove before we knew you. And it was just such a easy way and simple way to buy great furniture. And then, you had mentioned you grew that organization and you exited not that long ago. And instead of sitting back and going, okay, well, I'm just going to relax for a little bit, you decided, hey, let's start something else. And that's where you ended up with Monos. So, what is Monos?
Monos is I think there's really two sides to Monos. I think these days with brands, you can't just be a brand that is purely focused on business, a business model where, there's, huge margins. It's a great product. I think, with the competition these days, a brand has to have both, its values that it communicates to customers, where, they become fans of your brand, not just because of the business model, but because of what the brand believes in, right? And so Monos was kind of created with kind of both of these in mind. On the business side, we saw a huge opportunity to kind of disrupt the market of suitcases. Typically, I think suitcase buying hasn't really evolved. I think most people still, go to a department store or Costco and there's a ton of suitcases, a ton of selection. No one there really to help you. There's no product knowledge at all. There's no information as to what makes a good suitcase. And the people are just expected that they use the suitcase, it breaks down, and they get a new one. And we saw an opportunity to kind of build a brand that creates awareness into what makes a good suitcase, and also incorporate what looks good right now and what appeals to people, just like in fashion, right? When you walk into a clothing store, the mannequins or magazines and things like that kind of gives you the inspiration to, or what you aspire to look like, right? And so that's the opportunity we saw in the travel space for suitcases. And on the brand side, we kind of saw an opportunity to kind of communicate the message of mindful travel. And that's kind of where our name comes in, Monos. It actually is a Japanese phrase. It's short for, from a Japanese phrase, mono no orare. Essentially, it means the appreciation of beauty and fleeting moments.
Wow.
And to kind of expand that, it's really, during your travels, we're always a lot of times you try to pack a lot of things into a trip, right? You might have 5 places you want to go to, the landmarks or whatnot, and you got to catch this train and maybe hop on this bus and meet this tour guide there. And a lot of times when you're doing these things, you really don't stop to appreciate what's around you, and it just doesn't allow for these very present. It doesn't allow you to be present, and what we found were during our travels, kind of the most fondest memories that we had were when we were very present in moments where, whether it's just sitting in a cafe and listening to the music or people talking, and I think that's kind of what we try to inspire people to do when they kind of connect with our brand.
Thanks for taking us down that journey for Monos, and it's the website monos.com. It's aesthetically beautiful website, and it does draw you into that journey of travel, but not travel from a place of, okay, we need to escape our life. We travel from a place of beauty, and there's beautiful places. And so this company is relatively new. Hasn't been around for very long, and you've started the business with a few founders. So there's, I believe 3 co-founders in the organization.
Yeah, 3 including myself, yes.
3 including yourself. And so, I think what is interesting to me is when you sit down with a couple other friends and decide, hey, we're going to launch a new business. How did you decide who's going to focus on what?
So I think it has to start with, when I decided to get back into creating, this brand. I already knew the people that I wanted to work with already. Just to give an example, Hubert, one of the co-founders, he's a longtime friend. I've known him since high school, actually elementary school, and he's always been, super creative, very talented, really amazing with words and copy, and I just knew if I was to build my next brand, I would love to work with him. And just speaking with him over the years, whether it's over dinner or lunch, he'd always shown an interest into kind of building something for himself as well. He's worked at a boutique design firm as a senior designer for the past decade. So right off the bat, that it was just very easy and collaborative there, because he fulfilled a very important part of the company by leading the creative department.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, it's so important to, when you're thinking about starting something new, do it on your own and just hire in for talent, or sit down and look at, people that you trust, admire, and talk about opportunity to build something. And I could just imagine that conversation of, hey, I've got this crazy idea to disrupt this market. And are you in? You want to come along for the journey, for the ride?
Yeah, and I think I've been pretty lucky throughout this journey that the partners that I've known before, so it wasn't something new where we didn't know each other personally. We've my previous two partners and the current two partners, we've all known each other personally before we got into business together.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a layer of trust and a layer and already a way that we communicate. It's fairly easy. And Daniel, my third partner, what was really easy about that, he's almost like a replica. He's almost a duplicate of myself.
Okay.
So he's built and ran several successful e-commerce stores over the years. Just after he dropped out of university and he started his first store there. So we both actually have the same skill set in the sense of knowing, connecting all the dots from A to Z in building a e-commerce business. But what separates us is just the way we think. We're very two different people in the sense he's very analytical and loves the operational side of the business, whereas I'm more focused on the overall vision, the brand and marketing of the company. So that's how we kind of split our roles. But at the same time, be able to understand each other because we've done kind of all parts of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important to really understand skill set, right? What gets people excited, and if operations doesn't excite you, you probably need to find someone who is excited about that operations. And so that kind of leads me into the growth of the organization. I've been following Monos for a while, and I know your company is growing month over month. And with the growth of an organization comes growth of people and needing to add resources to the team. And so this is a common question that I get in some of the consulting I do is, who do I hire? As I'm growing, do I hire in HR resource, or do I hire first for customer success, or where do I start? And so where did you guys start as you started to build out the team more than just the three of you?
So the unique part of our brand, our company, and and what gives us, I think, an edge over any other, I shouldn't say any other startup, because I think, there could be a lot of different teams there, but what's unique about us is just our past experience, having two founders, knowing, from A to Z how to do a lot of the marketing and a lot of the logistics side of things. So we pretty much are very self-sufficient right from the beginning. We didn't really need to outsource the marketing, the shipping and logistics, the buying and manufacturing overseas. Everything we knew how to do, and that lets us be able to really be hands-on with a lot of the quality aspects of each of those departments. So really building out the team. When we first talked about this company, we really wanted to be very focused in the teams that we built. So we didn't want to have 5-6 different departments and try to build and scale those teams. We wanted things that we were really good at overseeing, and we've kind of narrowed that down to customer service. So the customer experience and the creative design team was the two departments that we are hoping to only really have in our company and to scale that.
Wow. So that's even disruptive in a traditional model of scaling a business, where so often organizations, years down the road, look back and try to figure out how did they end up being so siloed, where it sounds like that's not the path you're choosing to go down.
Mm-hmm.
It's, would you say it's a fairly flat organization from a hierarchy perspective?
Yeah, it's definitely fairly flat. I think that comes from what we've decided early on as the culture that we wanted. When we first started, I think a lot of companies will come up with several company core values. That does shift with time depending on the size of the company. But the two that we found really resonates a lot right now for us is trust and leading with empathy. So elaborating on that, every team member that comes to that joins our company on the first day, we kind of go over these two values. And trust being, there's 100% complete full trust between everyone on the team. So what that means is, there's trust in them, having the company's interests, in the decisions they're making, and there's trust in each other, right? There's trusting in your teammates to know that they're also going to be doing their best work. I think a lot of times when there's the trust isn't there, and a lot of people are like, well, you need to earn the trust. I think then you start to micromanage a lot because you start to oversee too much because you don't trust them, right? So I think being able to tell them up front that there's a complete trust in there, that it kind of gives that the person that we're hiring the best chance of success in our opinion, because they will do their best work knowing we have complete faith in them. And leading with empathy is a big one for us. So within our organization, we actually don't have time in, time out. We don't actually clock anybody. And the leading with empathy plays in the trust part too. So again, if you come in 10 minutes after, so we have starting and kind of end times each day, but there's a window where if you've come in 10 minutes later, and we kind of trust that perhaps you wanted to, for example, do a morning yoga, and you told us, I'd like, it's really helpful for my, mental health or my whatever it is to, have this class in the morning. Can I come in later? There's kind of full trust that that's your intention. Or if someone on the flip side needs to leave early because they, just aren't having the best day, for example, there's no judgment. That we always kind of lead with empathy, and we want to empathize to, the well-being of kind of everybody. So there's no judgment, if someone needs to go home because they need to have a family or whatnot. So I think that's kind of the culture that we're trying to build, is where people aren't looking over their shoulders.
It's so important to lead from that place of core values. I think we've had a conversation quite a while ago about values and the intention behind them. And I've recorded a number of podcasts now on values. And so, for those entrepreneurs or people who are listening who may not be bought into why values are needed, here we are hearing a real example of how to start an organization, sitting down with your co-founders and really fleshing out what do we stand for? What does that mean? Because I'm sure that has made the hiring process, as you bring people on, a little bit easier.
Oh yeah, much easier. I think for us, we knew getting that first person that really aligned with our values was very important, because that I think once you get the first few hires right and they're all bought in, that type of energy and positivity kind of just it exudes to the next kind of the next people, right? Your next hires, and that's very important to get right early. So that's something that we were very mindful of, not rushed.
Yeah. And so as you build up this, your organization for Monos, and keeping in that, kind of mindset of keeping it flat organizations, really building out the two teams. And how does that work in terms of responsibility for managing people? So as you bring people on, there's almost this unsaid expectation from employees that, hey, I'm going to get a performance review and then my salary is going to increase, or, where am I going to go next in the organization, and setting out growth plans. And so is that a collaborative effort between the founders, or is there one specific person who has taken that on?
At the size of our team currently, it's pretty collaborative. It was something, funny enough, it was something we were just about to get into because we had our first kind of big team meeting in February. And shortly after COVID happened. And so we actually haven't even gone down that path because, once it happened, it was kind of very much on the secondary just to really dive into the company itself and the health of it because of the impact of the coronavirus.
Yeah, and I can imagine, I know you've pivoted Monos, being a travel company, and Suitcases, where everything has been or had been shut down. That has an impact on business, and being a small team, I think it's allowing for that agility and ability to pivot. And so, and I'm sure building on a culture of trust and leading with empathy, everyone in the organization understands. It's like, okay, we were going to go down there, but we really need to ensure that this organization stays around for the long haul. So, yeah. And so, when the company did have to pivot and you've released a new product, how did the team rally behind that?
Yeah, for us, I think being able to pivot to a new product, first, there's a sense of excitement for sure, right? Because it's just like creating anything new. When you're creating, you get creative and there's a certain, the team gets a renewed sense of purpose now, right? Luggage was definitely something that wasn't selling or moving at all. So it was very important for us to look for a pivot point to have the team rally behind and to get a renewed sense of purpose and motivation. That's that we were, luckily, was pretty successful in doing so, and that's kind of allowed us to not only survive this period. We've actually seen growth in April and May from March.
Wow!
And the neat part was, we were able to actually continue on with our promise of employee benefits. That was something we were working on prior to COVID, and it was definitely something we weren't looking into right after that it all happened. But now we're in May, and we realize things are kind of turning around for us. And we've actually just signed on to our benefits plan, and we're very excited for the team to be able to kind of add that in there. And I know a lot of people, that's an important aspect in joining a company is some of these benefits.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that. In the midst of, we're recording this in the midst of the pandemic, and this. So being able to still grow an organization, a travel brand organization, as well as take a look at your employees and say, hey, we need people for the long term. They're bought into the product, but let's invest in our people as well. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, that was really, again, what we decided on early on was absolutely kind of going above and beyond for our team and really taking care of them. I think everything else kind of, just going deeper into why we decided, the creative team and the customer service, it becomes very black or white when we're managing these teams, right? For example, with our customer experience team, it's very easy to track different KPI numbers in terms of tickets solved and customer feedback on the interaction with our customers team. So these things are all very easily, you can look into if someone decided to take advantage of our company and take advantage of the situation where we're giving them that full trust, right? And so it's a very easy decision for us when we do these reviews, if someone were taking advantage of that. And same thing on the designing side, creative is a department where you can't just say, hey, why don't you work faster, why is this taking so long? Because it's something we do value, the creatives, the design team, where it does take time to come up with great ideas, and the cool part is, again, all our projects and things can be tracked, and it's funny enough, as we're moving along with, working in our office and having everyone work from home, the productivity has actually skyrocketed. Especially with the designers, they've been kind of knocking out all the different things that we need to do. And it was, really kudos to them that we were able to launch and pivot so fast with our new products.
It's an amazing ability, and I think it's inspiring, and it should be inspiring for any founder who might be listening to this podcast. Is listen to the team, listen to the needs of the team, and as well as, what do we stand for as an organization? You talk about the creative side of the business and giving freedom in that. It's not like, hey, we need a new product by tomorrow in order to pivot. It's allowing that space, but also, that trust from a customer service perspective and trusting the team in that. So, as I've kind of mentioned a few times, there might be founders or managers or leaders or individual contributors listening. What's be a piece of advice you'd offer to an entrepreneur, as they are adding resources to the team or growing the team or maybe pivoting their organization?
I think it's, I think listening to first podcasts, they actually do help a lot. Looking back to, the things we're doing now, it just all came from experience, right? And it's really hard to substitute that sometimes unless you've done it before. So definitely, finding a mentor, listening to, podcasts like these where you could kind of expedite that, experience learning, without actually doing it, and just hearing kind of these case studies of, what's worked and what hasn't. That really, I think, prior to this, I think, in 2011, there weren't really podcasts they were podcasts, but it wasn't as, widely, in the mainstream, right? And there were, several books out there, but it could be outdated by the time it's published, So I think, that's definitely, something I found tremendous value recently. Even, right now, I'm always looking for different podcasts and conversations, seeing what kind of things I can pick out, because, just there's nothing that can substitute it. And so that's why I always value the opinions and of people that's traveled and done a lot more than I've done.
Yeah, it's I appreciate you saying that. I think we in 30 minutes or so, it's really hard to get into the nuts and bolts of what makes an organization or real detailed plans or detailed advice for entrepreneurs. But there's a plethora of data and information out there. Whether it's, hey, I need to research adding benefits for my employees, right? There's lots of great places to go and sources of information, and also people to reach out to, right? I've recently had an entrepreneur reach out to me and on LinkedIn. I don't know the person, we have no mutual connection, and was just seeking some advice on something. And so we'd be amazed at how our world is more than willing to give advice and give their thoughts and opinions on things. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so, I think as we kind of wrap up here, I really appreciate you, Victor, for coming on today and just talking us through your journey from, starting really just at a young age and developing a couple of businesses and then to Rove Concepts and now into Monos, as well as your thoughts just on, structuring your co-founders and adding people and what really keeps you grounded and focused. And, those two core values, trust and lead with empathy. I'm sure that there will be other organizations that will now borrow those as core values. So, thanks again. And for those who are listening, thanks for tuning in. And we hope to hear from you again soon. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Tim. Take care.
You're welcome. No problem. Bye-bye.